Hi, and thanks for joining me. This afternoon it's really murky, it's Friday afternoon, and I thought it might be really nice to share with you an absolute beginner's guide on doing some gin glasses for Christmas. So I'm not going to talk about it too much, I'm just going to do it. So let's get on with the equipment that we'll need. So first off, I've got blue gloves on. You can use rubber gloves or no gloves at all, it's entirely up to you. Some of the Pebeo paints that I'm going to be using are water-based, but they will tell you that on the front of the paint. So for example, you can see here that it does state that it's water-based, so you'll be able to wash those off really easily from different bits and pieces. Some, if you're going to use a particularly glossy paint, which I've chosen to use here, the black, then that will need an adjutant to remove it, such as white spirit. So you may want to stick to the water-based ones if you're doing these with children perhaps, but that's obviously your choice. I like to try to keep my nails in some sort of good order, if I end up putting white spirit on them and I've spent 2 hours painting my nails, it all tends to come off. So we have a regular ordinary gin glass from my local supermarket. It's quite heavy in weight. I prefer these so as they don't tend to fall over quite as easily as the finer types of glasses you can buy. And as an absolute beginner, I think they're not bad at £2 a glass, and you can buy 2. They usually come in pairs, so the most that it's going to cost you for the glasses is around £4. So the first thing we need to do is to make sure it's completely clean. You can do that by putting it in a sink and just washing it with soap and water, just your ordinary washing up liquid. Make sure you dry it off and it will be done. Or in order to get any grease marks or anything off, I tend to use a bit of nail polish remover all over the glass, because that way it makes sure that there is absolutely nothing on there whatsoever, including any grease or anything that may have been picked up as you've gone along. Just a quick wipe round so as it's squeaky clean, and a nice dry off with your bit of kitchen towel. This glass actually happens to have a small fault in it, which isn't really going to bother us because we're going to be painting the majority of the glass with snowmen, so we're not going to see it. Now, with regards to the paints, I tend to use these Pebeo ones. I've been using them for a while. They're the Vitrea. They are oven bake, and it tells you on the front the instructions for if you want to put them in the oven. They are, I think on this particular white one, hasn't got it on either of those, excuse me a moment. Here we go. So this one, for example, has got the little international symbols at the bottom, the oven, the fact that it can be painted, and the time is 40 minutes on this particular pot of paint, and then that it is due to make it dishwasher safe. And the 160 is the 160 degrees that you put it in the oven. They're fully come with instructions of how to use them. And as I say, if you're doing this with children, you may want to stick to the water-based types. These come in a massive variety of colours these days. Absolutely phenomenal and a brilliant choice. So for this particular project of snowmen, we are using the white. You can pick up whichever one you might choose to buy online or in your local crafting store. They do vary in price, and they also come in different sizes. So it's quite handy, because if you are new to glass painting and you don't want a massive outlay, you can buy them in the smaller pots. This one is like a yellowy with a tinge of orange in it. This is for the nose, and this black is a high gloss black. This one does need white spirit to get it off your paintbrushes, and I think that's because it's probably got the gloss in it, which is the sort of oil, and you get a much better finish on the stem and the base of your glass if you're using a high gloss paint. Apart from that, those three paints and your gin glass, you need a paintbrush. This one I tend to find gives me quite a nice wide base to do the base, so there's less brush marks, although this paint gives a really good finish. So, you know, it's really highly glossy. Your plain old cocktail sticks from your supermarket, and you don't have to have these, you can do it with the cocktail sticks, but I find these really useful tool. You can buy them in your craft store or online. Again, I'll put a link in the feed below. They are really useful little dabbers, and they all come in lots of different sizes, and they're pretty inexpensive, and they are used for a variety of things. I have also got these bigger ones, but I tend to find that these smaller ones are a little bit more intricate for doing the snowmen. So let's get on with starting our snowmen. The idea with these really would be what I tend to do for the sake of not letting the paint run. I would turn my glass upside down and start upside down, and then let it dry. They touch dry within about 1 to 2 hours, these paints, and fully dry within 8. And there's probably 1, 2, 3, 4 stages to the snowmen. So let's get started. Open up your paint, give it a good shake, and dib in your little dibby dabber, and start by doing your body of your snowman. So if you work it in circles like this, and then let it come out of the paint, you will get a little mark there, but it will tend to just blend in as you go on. Next, you need to do a little head. So I'd start just slightly away from the body, and you've just got a little head there for your snowman. So that is your first snowman done. Let me see if I can bring the camera in a little bit, because it might be better for you to be able to see. So I'll move the glass round slightly. Now you can paint these randomly, however you feel you want them on your glass, and you have the opportunity to make bigger ones, smaller ones, less of them, and while you're doing your snowmen, you can also pop some snowballs on if you wish to. But the main part of the snowmen really needs to be with the body and the head to start with. Now remember that every single snowman that we make during the winter period, if we're lucky enough to have snow, none of them are ever the same. So don't feel that it matters how you're doing with regards to the circles or with regards to the heads, because the whole point of this is that they are handmade. They're perfect to give to grandparents and things for Christmas, from grandchildren if they fancy making these. Personally, I don't have any grandchildren, but I have given them to a lot of my friends who the comments have been fantastic. And really, this builds up as you go along, and you will be so surprised by the finished product. Try as you can not to put too much paint on your dabber, because what we're trying to get here is a fairly even finish, but we don't want them to look perfect because obviously they're snowmen, but you also don't want them running all over the glass. So start again with the round body, moving out and then bringing the dibber away. And then we're going in with the head. There we go. Bringing him round. And there's the head. I've got a little bit of a defect in the glass here. Go over that with a body. Never had one of these before in a glass, these little imperfections. Certainly got them myself, but I've never seen them in a glass. There we go. So we carry on there with our jolly snowmen, working around the base of the glass, and then we'll turn ourselves up the other way as we go, because there are a few aspects to this, stages as we go along, and this is number 1. And believe me, once you start going, they get faster and faster. Also, I'm going to be doing with you, when this glass has been completed, a glass to go with it that isn't the same, but is one with Santa hats, and it complements this glass beautifully. So I'm going to carry on now and complete the rest of my snowmen, and I'll be back in a few moments to show you the next stage of the glass. Hi, and welcome back again. Here we have the glass that I've done my snowmen all around. You can see from the many of them that they're all different shapes and sizes. Some of them are thicker paint than others, and I think this just lends to the fact that they're all snowmen, and that's how snowmen or women need to be. So what I want to do now is just to make sure I can show you that there's a tiny little bit of white paint, if you can see it on the glass there, and how easy it is to get rid of that with these water-based paints. Just get a tiny little bit of nail polish remover. Excuse me, because I need to try to get actually onto it there. There we go, and it's gone. So it's as easy as that to take any marks off. Any sort of fingerprint marks or anything like that can be taken off with the nail polish remover. And at the end, oops, look, now look, see, that's the sort of thing with these glasses, it's perfect to make mistakes, because if you do that, you haven't wasted a whole glass, and you certainly can just tidy that up again with just a little bit of water or with a little bit of nail polish remover. So these glasses, they don't need to be perfect when you're doing them or when the children are doing them, because if they're smudged, you can actually get a whole snowman off with some nail polish remover or some warm soapy water if it hasn't dried too much. So there it is. We've completed the first stage of our glass with all our little snowmen. Now the next thing I would like to do is their hats. I've decided to do these in the high gloss black, so give it a good shake, open it up. These I will start with a cocktail stick. So the same way as the dabber, to ensure that you don't get too much on the stick. Sometimes this can be a little bit tricky because when it goes into the black you can't see the bottom of the pot, so it can, but you can easily wipe it off. Now I'm going to start down at the bottom where the drier snowmen are, and if you can see here, I'll tell you what, if I put it up like this it might work a little bit better for you to be able to see on the screen. I'm going to pull the cocktail stick across the top of the snowman head. I haven't got enough, I've wiped way too much off, so I'm going in again to the paint. And again, it doesn't really matter if you do this wrong because these can be filled out. So pull it across the top, go out like a top hat with one side, out like a top hat with the other, and then fill in the middle. And there you have your first snowman with his first jaunty hat. Now it's up to you how you want to do these. I'm a little bit cack-handed because of the camera. This obviously won't be like this for you because hopefully you're not going to have a video camera in the way, but again, you will get used to using the cocktail sticks, but if you just let the paint run down, take it across the top of the head, up one side, up the other side, join it at the top, and then use the paint from the bottom if you can, pulling it up with the cocktail stick. To the top. Okay, so you've got your next snowman there with his hat on. The beautiful thing with these glasses is that you can do different coloured hats, different coloured noses, different coloured buttons. It's entirely your decision. I'm only doing these because they look striking when they're done, and the high gloss black does give it a really good finish. And you will get faster and faster as they go. If you don't want your children using the cocktail sticks, you can still do these hats with the dabbers. These cocktail sticks can be a little bit sharp on the ends. There we go. So your hats are now starting to build. I've got a bigger snowman here. He needs a much bigger hat, so a bit more paint. There we go, so you can widen them, you can make them small, you can make them big. You can make them straight, you can make them jaunty. But you may find that you need to just do a few at a time and then go on to something else, because you could find that the paint does run a little bit. It's a little bit more free flowing, the oily paint, the gloss paint, than the water-based paint. But as you can see, this is how we're starting to build our glass, and they're beginning slowly to look a lot more like snowmen. While I've got the black out, I'll just do one more hat here for this little fella. There we go. While we've got the black out, we may as well do a couple of buttons. I chose black buttons again because it was just easier, because I cut down on the cost of the paint, and also because you will see that it's going to go with the stem and the base of the glass. You can put 2 in here or 3. They don't need to be particularly in a row. They can be a little bit jaunty. You can make them bigger like this, or smaller like this. So it's entirely up to you, but as you can see, we're now starting to get character in our snowmen. I think you'll find that if you're doing these, they probably take a good couple of hours to do both the glasses. You'll speed up as you go along, but they are a very inexpensive present, and I think they can be used year after year. They're not used for gin in my house. We don't drink gin, but we do drink plenty of other stuff, so it'll be filled up with all sorts of other glasses, and they are really nice size because they're big, so they'll do for people who are having soft drinks, and they look great on the tables. So you can see how we're getting on. See, so I'm only just going to put one button on that one. Okay, so there we go. Now I will come back to you again as soon as I've finished my hats, and we'll start putting some noses on. Hi, welcome back. So you can see here where we have progressed with our snowmen, and they're becoming really little big characters now. They've got the little buttons on and their top hats. So we're now going to move on to our noses. For this particular glass that I created, I decided to do a carrot type nose, and I chose an orangey yellow colour really. You can see there which one it is. That's like the colour I used. I shall put all the details in the details at the bottom of the screen when I've finished. With regards to the noses, I've always found it easier to do these with a cocktail stick, and I wouldn't worry too much, again, because we're not looking for perfection here, about how they come out lengthwise, or whether they're stubby or big. I would just aim for the centre of the face and then pull your cocktail stick out just a small way. If it's possible and you think about it, try to do opposite directions. It gives your glass and your snowmen movement and a little bit of character as you're going on. So you move round your glass, just popping on the noses and building up, as I've said before, with the 4 stages, and just getting the characters together for the snowmen. You may decide that you want to add a red scarf, can be done with a cocktail stick, or you might want to add snowballs. For this example and this design that I've made, I've decided to just stick with the snowmen in this particular colour, and I think the reason for that will become a lot more clear when I do my next video for the Santa hats, because they're done in a lot of red and white, which makes a completely different glass, but the contrast goes incredibly well. So you carry on moving around your glass. As you can see, there's quite a lot of snowmen on here, and you can see that they're beginning to really take shape with their character. So I'm going to carry on with my snowmen noses, and I'll see you back here in a couple of minutes when we will paint the stem and the base. Okay, here we go again. So this, you can see all the snowmen have got their little noses, and there's quite a lot of them on the glass. You can decide if you wish to make your snowmen bigger so you have less of them, or you can make them even smaller and have more of them. The decision is entirely yours, and that is the beauty of these types of paints and this type of crafting. Now I'm going to paint the base now. So the main part of the glass at the top is touch dry. I would suggest, if you're going to paint the base before the top's dry, you've got a pretty steady hand, because you may need to get hold of the glass at some stage and you're going to have squashed snowmen and they're going to be a bit smudged, so do be careful. I tend to paint the first part of my base first, and if I can just move my big hand out of the way, if you start with just a small amount of paint on your brush, and you can start to draw it out around the base, around the bottom of the glass. So you can see this is an incredibly deep coloured black, and I can assure you that when this dries, it is a beautiful gloss, and it gives such a look to the glass. It's absolutely stunning. Don't worry if your paintbrush strokes are easy to see, because they do blend in. It has a natural way of sorting itself out as it goes. The actual stem of the glass I also paint, because it connects the two together. Without it, it looks a little bit odd, and personally I prefer it if it's actually got a different stem colour than the clear, because this just finishes the whole look off and it makes it look really classy. These are great cocktail glasses at Christmas. They go down a storm, and I've had so many requests for them, far more than I can paint. So if you fancy yourself a little project, then it could be something that you might enjoy doing. So I would say that's basically finished, that glass. I'll pick it up this way so you can actually have a really good look at the glass itself. I would leave that now for 1 to 2 hours to allow the paint to settle and to cure. If you find that there's a few little transparent places on the base, you can go over it again with another coat. I might suggest doing that anyway. You will need to clean this brush because of the oil and the fact that it needs white spirit, as we spoke about previously, to clean the brush. This will not come off with just water and soap alone. You will ruin your brush. So get yourself some proper white spirit, methylated spirit, whatever you call it, to take this off. Your glass is going to shine. You can see the shine in the bottom of that base already as it reflects. It is a super gloss paint, and I think it's worth the extra effort of using the white spirit to get it off your brushes. It's absolutely stunning. When it's finished, I would then leave it personally for at least 12 to 24 hours before I started to use it. I would wash it in warm soapy water and then follow the instructions to put it into the oven for however long the instructions are on the front of the pot. Now, personally, I don't put my glasses in there because I don't put these type of glasses in my dishwasher. I would hand wash these, and anybody that I gave them to, I would tell them to hand wash them just in normal warm water in the sink.
I wouldn't put them in the dishwasher. I think once you've made the effort to make them, it's probably worth trying to keep them like it. They are unique and they are a great deal of fun to make, and they look great. So enjoy making them. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and live well, craft, and may you all prosper and have a fantastic Christmas. Until the next time with my Santa hats, I will say goodbye.